Ruthless Nerf Herders, listen up! Welcome back to the Captain's Commentaries. I'm Captain Xavier, and these are my commentaries. The last time we talked about what I referred to as the civilian loadouts for HvZ, for the casual player, for someone who wasn't running in a squad, who didn't have a lot of training, but who wanted a good, reliable loadout that would see them through the apocalypse, possibly. And so those are my suggestions on that. Obviously not definitive by any means. Today I'm going to talk about loadouts for squads, because when you actually have a larger squad of actual semi-professional or at least veteran players, the game is very, very different, because there are a lot of things you can do, a lot of things you can get away with that you simply can't really get away with when you're just a regular player out there playing. The biggest thing that squads allow you to do is specialize. When you're a regular player, you really need to have something that's fairly diverse, that can take on as many different potential threats as possible. Whereas when you're working in a squad, you can have people with dedicated roles, or a little bit more so. So you can have your long range guy and your full auto guy and your scouts and all of that, your demolitions guy. Especially if you're playing in a game that really favors super zombies or special zombies. Ones that have special abilities that can only be taken out by certain things, like they take multiple hits, or they have to get hit by a rocket, or something like that. And when you put together a squad, you should read the rules and understand what kind of specials are we likely to go up against. You can talk to the mods about that. They may or may not tell you. And so with enough people, if you spread out the special weapons, everybody has still a weapon that is, just a general all-purpose good weapon, but each one should then have the option for something else. Something like, my Strifle has regular semi-automatic fire, but then it also has Mega. You may have supers that take Mega. Ire, of course, has the attachments that allows me to fire anything for that exact reason. You might go with a Demolisher, so that you have a rocket launcher, or something. You should definitely try to have rockets, and possibly Mega. And high capacity, obviously, is still very important. And diversify. It makes it a lot more interesting when you get to say, I'm the sniper, or I'm the heavy, or I'm the the scouts or whatever, which just makes the game more interesting when you get to have a specialized roles within your squad. I built Ire obviously for that purpose. It's my heavy rifle. It's got an excellent rate of fire. It was very accurate and reliable, but also had the ability to fire just about anything. Full auto is something that you can now more get away with because you've got enough people. The other thing that is now available to us that wasn't available until fairly recently are things like select fire kits, like I have here in my Vector, which allows you to have the best of both worlds. Single fire for when there's single targets, full auto for when you just need to lay down suppressing fire, which is a very, very useful option that we have nowadays. We also have things now like the Prometheus and the Nemesis that are extremely high capacity, which is not something that was as available. We had things like the Hailfire, but it didn't have, the full auto rate of fire that things like this have. The downside, of course, is that once they are out of ammo, they are somewhat more difficult to reload. Paintball tubes work. There are other options. You can get into proton packs and things like that if you really want to. I do still recommend having, a couple of springers on hand for your scout-type characters, your light characters. Have some dedicated, reliable riflemen, as well as your heavy gunners and your rocketeers and all of that. One thing that was overlooked last time that it absolutely was an oversight, somebody pointed out, and they were absolutely correct: socks. Have socks. Rolled up socks. I have some incredibly brightly colored ones, so they're really easy to find. Socks have been a part of HvZ since the beginning. When HvZ first started, I think it might have actually been pre-N-Strike. It might have come out around the same time as N-Strike. But high-capacity Nerf blasters just really didn't exist outside of the Raider. Was the highest capacity one. 18 rounds didn't come out until, I believe, 2011 with the Stampede. You had the Vulcan with the 25-round belts, but that was never really a great option. And so socks were very much a staple of the game, and they still are, and they still should be. If you've seen my story time with Captain Xavier on my LEGO channel, there is the legend of Sock Guy, who ran with nothing but socks and wrecked everybody. And because socks have been around since the beginning of HvZ, a great many of the HvZs that I have been involved in had some kind of special zombie that could only be affected by socks. At West vs. Zombie, the only way to take out Black Knights was with socks. And so you should just always carry socks. If nothing else, just because it's part of the spirit and the soul of HvZ to have at least one sock. And if you can wrap them in Velcro and stick them directly to tack vests. A lot of people, wrap some duct tape on them to give them a little bit more mass. If you learn to roll them correctly, you really don't need to. They'll fly well enough. They'll stay together. And even like this, if you have the hooked side of Velcro on your gear, you can just stick them right to them, which is pretty neat. I also have actual grenade pouches, proper fragmentation or frag grenade pouches that will fit socks beautifully. I actually keep foam grenades in there, and a lot of games will let you use those. Others think they're too realistic, and fair enough. So I have those for socks if I should ever need them. And there have been situations where I was reloading and somebody came at me, and the quickest thing I could get to was to pull a sock off my vest and just fling it at them. And it saved me a couple of times. So socks, definitely socks. The other thing that you can have when you have a squad is you can have either one person that is your dedicated ammo mule, or everybody can be having backup ammunition in a backpack of some kind. I'm actually a big fan of these holders that they recently came out with, which will hold 6 18-round magazines about as efficiently as you can possibly imagine. There is really no dead space in these, and you can put them on a strap, or you could put them, in a backpack, or have some kind of a sling on your back that they go into. And so when you have a moment, when you have a lull in the action, you can have either everybody go through their ammo and top off their magazines, swap out magazines, or you can have someone who their dedicated job is make sure people have full magazines. And when you're in that big last stand, or you're holding a position of some kind, it's their job to keep doling out magazines to all the different people, or to be filling magazines when there's downtime or what have you. Those are the kind of things that you can get away with when you have a dedicated squad that is organized. I do still, of course, recommend sidearms. Either hammer shots are still my preferred spring sidearm. Strifes make an excellent heavy sidearm. That's what I roll. I went with 2 of those because I could draw 2 of them and then be able to aim at 2 targets at once. If you watch Walcom's West vs. Zombies footage, you get to see me dual wielding. When tier had a malfunction, I went to dual strifes, and it worked until I ran out of ammunition, and it works very, very well. I then also had, a hammer shot for when I needed one. I also had a dual strike, or a double strike. So, I obviously was, the super heavy character. You can see a lot of the other players in that game were medium, I would argue, having multiple strifes, or there was one guy, Michael, who had the magnet holsters, the holdsters. He'd built them into his armor. He had 2 on his shoulder, 1 on each shoulder blade and 1 on the small of his back, and he could just clip strifes and alpha troopers to those, and so he had a fairly inexhaustible supply of excellent HvZ blasters that weren't, encumbering him the way that my stuff kind of does. But, yeah. Generally, good idea when you're in squads to pair squad mates with complementary types of blasters. Have the guy who's got the rocket launcher, the guy who's got the mega, and they obviously will probably still be firing darts or possibly rival, so that from any given area when the super comes up, you have somebody who is prepared to take out said super if necessary, and that will definitely help with your squad loadouts. Same general principles apply, in my opinion. You don't want to mod too high because a lot of games won't allow them, or you start running into risks of reliability issues. High capacity is a good idea. High rate of fire is acceptable with squads because you will often, again, have the ability to carry a lot more ammunition. And you're going to be in positions where you're covering each other, and if you need to reload, your partners, your squad mate can cover that. I definitely, like I said, select fire is awesome. I still really like Stampedes because they've got the cycle control, so if you pull the trigger and let go, it will fire just once. Or you can hold it down and you can fire a lot more. Rapid strikes also have that built in. I ran into the issue at West vs. Zombies of my auto strifes that I was wielding as my secondaries. Pretty much could only fire in 2-round bursts because of how fast the rate of fire was. And so I went through ammo a lot faster than was advisable. I probably could have lasted longer if I hadn't been firing 2 rounds into each zombie and thus running out of ammunition a lot faster. So that is one of the reasons that I recommend something that's got a much more controllable rate of fire or that is semi-automatic. Though again, select fire gives you all of that. So beautiful if you have the funds or the abilities to get a hold of select fire kits. They have that functionality. Even the regulator, though the rate of fire is somewhat slow, you do still have single shot and full auto. The 3-round burst on the regulator isn't great, but the full auto isn't bad. Those are the types of blasters that I recommend for squad use. Obviously, most HvZs aren't going to allow anything that would truly qualify as a sniper rifle. You're not going to be able to field, likely aren't going to be able to field a Caliburn or a well-built long shot. But there are ways to build a blaster that's fairly accurate and has decent range, and still is under the limit of most HvZs. The real reason that it's not the most useful is generally if you hit a zombie from a really long ways away, they're just going to respawn by the time they get to you anyway, so all you've done is waste ammo. Now, the ability to reach out and hit super zombies, special zombies, is a different matter because they often have a longer respawn time. And if you can take them out before they can close and do a lot of damage, that's valuable. So again, diversity works. Obviously, I can put the long-range mega barrel or a long-range single-shot barrel and have a lot more range potential if I'm in a situation where that is necessary. So the next commentaries will actually be squad tactics, because to properly work as a unit requires training, and it requires practice and drill. To be able to smoothly reload while communicating with your teammates that you're reloading, to know how to properly move a column so that you don't get attacked from the side or from the rear or anything like that, how to properly check doors, how to properly communicate with your squad mates in the most efficient manner, and how to maximize the variety and the diversity of your arms. So that's what we'll be going into next time. I'm hoping to actually recruit the Dart Rangers, our local Nerf squad, to help me actually do a practical video on all of that, show what you should do, what you shouldn't do, the sort of things that I see all the time that get a lot of humans tagged, the sort of things that I've seen work very, very well for squads against large numbers of zombies. That one should be a lot of fun, and hopefully I'll get to see some of that in practice at future events. If I ever get to go to a large event just as a human, I'm going to want a dedicated squad that I run with that has at least some idea what they're doing. So hopefully if I put out a video on how to do it, there'll be more of those available. So that is what we have here. Squad armaments, a lot heavier, or potential to be a lot heavier. And next week we will go into squad tactics. If you have any other requests, recommendations, corrections, or suggestions for things you think I'm absolutely overlooking here, go ahead and put them down in the comments. And thank you guys for watching.